The healing research, let me start there. We have a healing group at the Rhine that has been working together for about over 6 years now. We have a small group of about 8 people who have been meeting and utilizing the same technique. It's a technique developed by a man named Bill Bengston, B-E-N-G-S-T-O-N. I'm not going to go into a lot about the technique, except to say that he's had a lot of success for this and published a number of papers on this in the last 20 years, including doing blinded tests with mice and cancer, where he is actually curing cancer in mice using an energy healing technique. He has, and not only has he been doing this himself, he's taught other people to do it. The healing group at the Rhine has learned this same technique, and we work together. Not so much because we're trying to heal people. Yes, of course, anytime you're having a group that's doing healing, you are concerned about people's health and their well-being. But the focus, because we're a research center and we're not medical doctors, our focus is how does it work? What is the technique? Can people learn it? And can we do some research around this? So that is some of the healing technique that we're doing, including what is the experience of being part of a healing group and the experience for people who are being treated by a healing group. In addition, we're looking at subtle energies around the body. And this is where I'm going to start first here. We have what we call the Rhine Bioenergy Lab. The Bioenergy Lab is a dark room. It's some of you have been in this room. It's completely black, and it's blocked from outside light. And we do this because we're looking at really low levels of light. What we'll do is we will have this lab set up. We have a machine in there, and you can see it called the photo multiplier. It's that blue box. And I said photo multiplier tube. It is a really, really sensitive piece of equipment. It can actually measure 1 single photon of light every half second. So we got to keep the room really dark because photons are all over the place, right? Well, we bring people into this room who say that they're healers and say that they can do different psi phenomena, people who do a lot of meditation, people who are martial artists. We'll bring them into the room and have them sit in front of this machine and try to see when they're performing their activities, when they're doing healing, when they're doing intense meditation or their martial arts form, can we measure different levels of ultraviolet light? Ultraviolet light is invisible light. We can't see it, and yet it's emitted from all living beings. Back in the 1970s, here we are back in the 1970s again, there was a man named Fritz Popp, and he decided he wanted to explore what they called biophotons. Biophotons, all it is, it's a real simple term, all it is it's low-level ultraviolet light emissions from living organisms. Well, Fritz Popp was looking at fruit and vegetables that were grown organically and non-organically and seeing if there was different levels of light coming from them. He found that, yes, foods that were grown organically tended to have more biophotons, more light emitting, than the ones that didn't. And the scientific community was like, great, who cares? It's light coming from fruit. We don't care, what's the difference? Well, Fritz thought that this is important, and he started studying it in great detail. And he found that as he went through not only plants, but any animals, and even we've done experiments with cells. We would take blood cells, and if you take them and you put them in a petri dish, if you put a little bit of saline on blood cells, they pop because they expand and they'll just pop. What we found is as the blood cells were popping, we were measuring light coming from the cells. Why is there light coming from these cells? Why does light come from humans? Why does it come from animals? Why does it come from plants? This is what we're trying to explore in the Bioenergy Lab. But this is, now what I just described to you about biophotons, this back in the 70s was crazy talk. Now it's upper level biology at MIT, at Stanford, in Italy, in Japan, around the world, in Germany especially. Fritz Popp was German. This is high level biology, trying to understand biophotons. Where do they come from? What are they used for? Why do people have them at all? So this is one of the new areas in biology. What we do at the Rhine that's a little different is we look at psi phenomena and healing and try to see if we can measure changes in people. So if in this room, if it's completely empty, nobody's in there, I'll normally measure about 3 to 5 photons a second. 3 to 5 photons is like no light at all. It's dark. It's way dark in that room. If I bring a person in, anyone, doesn't matter, and sit them down in front of this machine and I start measuring the light emissions from them, I'll start seeing it'll jump up to 12 to 20 photons because we glow. All of us, we have a natural glow in the biophoton range. My question is, when someone's sitting there and I get a baseline of how many photons are coming from them when they're just sitting there relaxing, when they start doing their healing and start to imagine themselves sending energies out and starting to do martial arts, am I going to see a change? 90% of the people who come through, I get no change. I just get the baseline. Nothing changes at all. But in 10% of the cases, when I have people come in, I get variation from the baseline. And when I'm talking about variation, remember I'm talking about 12 to 20 is the baseline, 12 to 20 photons a second. I'll see jumps up to 80 photons, which is a big number. 80 photons is 4 times the baseline. This is huge. And I see this consistently with certain people. But I'll get people that will bring it into the hundreds of photons, thousands, and even have people go into hundreds of thousands of photons a second. That's, I mean, you don't need statistics to know that there's something weird going on in this room. When you have someone sitting there, they start meditating and all of a sudden there's light in the room that can be measured on this machine. This is a really phenomenal experience when you're sitting and watching this. But the question, so who cares? It's light coming from people. What's the difference? Well, if you talk to people who do energy healing, people who do martial arts, people who do a lot of meditation, they often talk about Kundalini or Chi. If you talk to a physicist or a chemist, you know, to say energy, look, you're talking about, there's 2 kinds of energy, potential energy and kinetic energy. You're talking about something completely different, and I don't know what it is, but it's not energy. But what we're measuring is light. Light is an electromagnetic form of energy that's accepted in physics. We're using standard physics equipment, things that are used in laser technology and medical situations, a photomultiplier tube. We're measuring a standard physics measurement of energy, and we're measuring it coming from people who are experiencing energy healing, who are experiencing Chi, who are experiencing Kundalini. We're finding some of the early measurements and ways to detect the energies that people have been talking about for centuries. We're finding the evidence that these people aren't just making up these feelings of energy, but you can actually measure them and quantify them and see in different situations why they might occur. What we have done recently, we've been doing this for, well, it's been going on for over 20 years. I've been doing it for 10 years now at the Rhine. But what we've recently done is we've set up a second lab. So now we have 2 labs set up, one where you can have a healer, another where you can have somebody as a target of the healing, and we can look for corresponding light measurements in both rooms. This is our next step in our study. It's what we call coherence, to see if we can find coherence and non-locality. See if we see it in one place and see it in another place, in different rooms in the building. There's no way the light can get between them, but might we see measurements in both rooms?